Welcome to a journey through the life of Solomon, a king remembered not only for the wealth and splendor of his throne, but for the unique request that set him apart from all other rulers. When given the chance to ask God for anything, he did not choose riches, victory, or long life, but wisdom. This single decision shines like a jewel in history, reminding us that the true crown of greatness rests not on the head, but within the soul. Solomon's story begins at a moment of transition. His father David had been a warrior king, one who secured the land and united the tribes of Israel. Solomon inherited a kingdom already strong, yet with that strength came the heavy weight of responsibility. He was young, untested, and aware of his own limitations. The people looked to him for guidance, and the throne he occupied demanded more than power. It required discernment, clarity, and a spirit capable of ruling with justice. What makes his story so compelling is the humility he displayed at the very beginning. Instead of relying on his own strength or seeking to expand his own glory, he turned to God with an honest prayer for understanding. This was no ordinary request, but a plea that revealed the posture of his heart. He desired the ability to lead rightly, to discern between good and evil, and to honor the sacred responsibility entrusted to him. Even today, this ancient request speaks with power. In a world filled with noise, ambition, and endless pursuits of wealth, the choice of Solomon calls us back to what truly matters. Wisdom is more than cleverness or intelligence. It is the light that guides the soul through life's complexities, the crown that never fades, and the treasure that cannot be stolen. His story invites us to consider what we ourselves would seek if given the chance to ask for anything. As we begin this journey into the wisdom of Solomon, let your heart be open to reflection. Ask yourself what treasures you are pursuing, what crown rests upon your own life, and how wisdom might reshape the way you see the world. The story we are about to unfold is not only about an ancient king, but about the hidden kingdom within your own soul. And before we go further, if you enjoy content that explores faith, wisdom, and the deeper meaning of life, I encourage you to subscribe to this channel. Give this video a like if it inspires you, leave a comment to share your reflections, and consider sharing it with friends or family who may also be seeking encouragement. Together, we can spread these timeless truths and walk side by side in the pursuit of wisdom that outlasts every earthly crown. When Solomon traveled to Gibeon to offer sacrifices, the night became the stage for one of the most remarkable encounters between heaven and humanity. In a dream, God appeared to him and extended an offer few could imagine, to ask for whatever his heart desired. Such a moment carried unimaginable weight, for it was not the request of an ordinary man, but of a newly anointed king whose decision would affect not only his own life, but the destiny of a nation. The response Solomon gave in that sacred moment reveals more about his character than any monument or throne could ever testify. He did not ask for the downfall of his enemies, nor for the expansion of his borders, nor for riches that would rival the wealth of empires. He did not even ask for long life to secure his reign across generations. Instead, Solomon bowed inwardly before God and confessed his limitations, saying that he was like a child who did not know how to carry the burdens of leadership. His request was simple yet profound. He asked for wisdom, for an understanding heart, to discern between good and evil, so that he might govern the people with justice. In this moment, we see the essence of humility woven into leadership. A king who already possessed wealth, armies, and authority recognized that none of these would be enough without the clarity to guide his people with truth. The prayer at Gibeon was not only a petition, but also a surrender. Solomon admitted that human strength and human cleverness would not suffice to fulfill the calling placed upon him. This surrender was the very soil in which God could pour his wisdom, because wisdom begins where pride ends. The choice Solomon made at Gibeon highlights a deeper truth about what the human soul truly longs for. While many chase wealth, status, or success, Solomon's story reminds us that the greatest treasure lies not in possession, but in perception, not in control, but in discernment. To ask for wisdom is to acknowledge that the greatest battles of life are not fought on fields of war, but within the choices of the heart. It is to recognize that ruling oneself rightly is greater than ruling a kingdom, and that governing with justice requires insight beyond appearances. The response of God to Solomon's request reveals the pleasure that such humility brings. Because Solomon did not seek selfish gain, God granted him wisdom greater than any who had come before or would come after. Yet even more, God added wealth, honor, and long life as blessings beyond his request. This moment illustrates a timeless truth. When the heart seeks what is eternal, the temporal blessings follow. When one asks for what truly matters, heaven answers with abundance. Solomon's prayer is not only a historical moment, but also a spiritual pattern for all who seek divine guidance. The heart that bends low in humility and asks not for pleasure or power, but for wisdom and understanding, becomes the kind of heart that heaven delights to bless. This principle invites every soul to examine what it seeks most earnestly. The prayer of Gibeon whispers to us across centuries, urging us to consider, what do we truly ask of God when we bend our knees? In daily life, the choices may not carry the fate of a kingdom, yet they still shape destinies. A parent guiding a child, a leader influencing others, a friend offering counsel. All of these moments demand discernment. The wisdom Solomon requested is the same wisdom needed in countless hidden decisions of ordinary days, where the soul must choose the path of truth over illusion. The humility of Solomon in his youth serves as a model that transcends time. It reminds us that the beginning of true greatness is not found in striving to elevate oneself, but in acknowledging dependence on a wisdom higher than human thought. To pray as Solomon prayed is to place the heart in alignment with what endures, to seek the crown that rests not on the head, but within the soul. The royal request at Gibeon reveals the secret of priorities. When the soul desires wisdom above all, it discovers that all else is placed into right order. Wealth without wisdom becomes a snare. Power without wisdom becomes a danger. Long life without wisdom becomes an empty span. But wisdom itself transforms every blessing into a gift rightly used, every trial into a lesson rightly understood, and every day into an opportunity rightly lived. This is the essence of Solomon's divine request, a declaration that true greatness is measured not by what one possesses, but by how one perceives and responds to the mysteries of life. The choice to seek wisdom is the choice to crown the soul with something eternal, something that no power on earth can diminish. When wisdom entered Solomon's life, it did not merely touch his decisions, it reshaped the very architecture of his mind. The gift he received at Gibeon was not simply an ability to solve puzzles or to win arguments. It was the construction of a royal inner palace where discernment ruled as king. To imagine wisdom is to picture an edifice built within the soul, with foundations of humility, walls of discernment, and chambers filled with understanding. Solomon's reign illustrates how such an architecture can govern thought, emotion, and action. The royal mind does not arrive by accident. It is built choice upon choice, reflection upon reflection, prayer upon prayer. Solomon received the seed of wisdom from God, but he cultivated it by seeking understanding in every matter brought before him. He trained his mind to look beyond appearances, to measure decisions not by convenience, but by truth. Each ruling, each judgment, each counsel given was a brick laid within this inner palace, strengthening its design and expanding its reach. wisdom became the throne within Solomon's mind, seated above passions, fears, and impulses. A king may wear a crown of gold, but the greater crown is the mastery of one's thoughts and emotions. To rule with wisdom is to see anger without being ruled by it, to feel desire without being consumed by it, to face fear without surrendering to it. In this way, the royal mind is not only for kings, but for anyone who seeks to let wisdom govern the heart. This architecture of wisdom creates space for patience. In a world quick to judge and swift to react, Solomon's mind was marked by the ability to wait, to listen, to weigh a matter fully before rendering a decision. Patience is the pillar that supports discernment, for wisdom requires time to unfold its clarity. Without patience, judgment is clouded, but with it, the royal mind sees clearly and rules justly. Another chamber of this palace is foresight. Solomon's wisdom enabled him to perceive consequences before they appeared, to trace the thread of actions into the future, and to advise or act with an awareness that others lacked. This foresight was not mere calculation, but an illumination of understanding granted by God. Such vision allows the soul to walk with stability, avoiding traps that ensnare the reckless and building foundations that endure storms. Within this architecture also lies compassion. A wise mind is not cold, detached, or mechanical. It is warm with empathy, tuned to the cries of the needy, and aware of the hidden struggles of the human heart. Solomon's wisdom was often expressed in justice, but justice in his kingdom was inseparable from mercy. True wisdom never reduces people to problems. It perceives their humanity and responds with balance and care. When wisdom sits upon the throne of the mind, life itself becomes a kingdom rightly governed. Decisions, large and small, fall into order. Impulses are tempered, and clarity shines through confusion. This inner governance is what makes the soul majestic, even in times of weakness. To cultivate the royal mind is to construct within oneself a sanctuary of discernment, where wisdom presides like a monarch, guiding every thought and every path. The story of Solomon demonstrates that wisdom does not merely solve dilemmas, but shapes identity. It does not simply answer questions, but teaches how to live. A royal mind is a mind aligned with divine truth, capable of seeing beyond the moment into eternity, and capable of ruling not only over lands, but over the self. This is the architecture hidden within wisdom, the palace that every soul is invited to build within. The wisdom of Solomon shone brightest, not in theory but in practice, and one of the most well-known examples is the judgment involving two women who claimed to be the mother of the same child. The case was not about wealth or property, but about life itself, and the decision rested upon Solomon's ability to discern truth where evidence was scarce. In this story, wisdom is revealed as more than intelligence. It is insight into the hidden motives of the heart. When the women stood before him, each pleading her case, the outward situation was impossible to resolve. No witnesses could confirm the truth, no proof could be offered, and both voices cried out with equal passion. Human judgment alone could not penetrate the surface. But Solomon, guided by divine wisdom, chose a path that seemed shocking to those who heard it. He commanded that the living child be divided, giving half to each woman. This statement was never meant to be carried out. It was a test, a revelation of the soul. For in that moment, the true mother revealed herself, preferring to lose her claim than to see the child harmed. Through this, Solomon exposed the hidden heart, uncovering truth not by direct evidence, but by drawing it forth through discernment. The case was resolved, and all Israel marveled at the wisdom of their king, recognizing that God's Spirit rested upon him in judgment. The lesson embedded within this story is timeless. Wisdom is not merely about analyzing facts, but about perceiving motives. It sees beyond words to intentions, beyond appearances to reality. Many situations in life present themselves as unsolvable puzzles, where each side claims to be right, and the truth is obscured. In these moments, wisdom does not rely on surface impressions, but searches deeper, asking what lies beneath the spoken words and visible gestures. To practice such discernment requires courage. Solomon risked appearing harsh or reckless with his proposal to divide the child. Yet wisdom is willing to walk paths that may appear unconventional, for it seeks truth over popularity, justice over approval. This courage is essential in the judgments of daily life, where standing for truth may sometimes draw criticism, but where compromise would wound the soul. Compassion also played a role in Solomon's decision. The wisdom he displayed was not only about exposing the liar, but about protecting the innocent. The true mother's love was preserved, and the child's life was spared. In this way, wisdom revealed itself as both just and merciful. True judgment does not destroy but preserves, does not crush but restores. For the listener today, the story serves as a reminder that wisdom is needed not only in royal courts, but in personal relationships, workplaces, and communities. Conflicts and disputes arise in every sphere of life, often clouded with competing voices and hidden agendas. To walk with wisdom is to cultivate the ability to see beyond appearances, to sense where truth resides, and to respond with both justice and compassion. The royal secret revealed in Solomon's judgment is that wisdom sees with the eyes of the Spirit. It does not stop at what is visible, but presses into what is hidden, discerning the heart behind the action. Such vision transforms decisions from guesswork into clarity, guiding the soul to act with confidence, fairness, and mercy. As Solomon's wisdom spread throughout the land, prosperity followed. His reign became known for peace, abundance, and influence. Kings and rulers sought his counsel, and nations admired the stability of Israel under his rule. Yet the true wealth of Solomon's reign was not measured in gold or silver, nor in the grandeur of his palaces. The true treasure lay in the understanding that shaped his soul and guided his decisions. The scriptures describe Solomon's riches in detail. Ships bringing gold from distant lands, alliances that filled his treasury, and a throne of ivory overlaid with gold. Yet even these images of splendor pale when compared to the enduring value of wisdom. For gold can tarnish, silver can be stolen, and kingdoms can crumble, but the treasures of understanding remain within the soul, unshaken by time or circumstance. To grasp the value of wisdom, imagine it as a vault filled with eternal riches. Within this vault lies discernment that keeps the soul safe from deception, insight that turns confusion into clarity, and peace that guards the heart against anxiety. These treasures cannot be bought or sold. They are given to those who seek with humility and preserved in the hearts of those who value them above all else. Solomon himself reflected on this truth in the writings attributed to him. He declared that wisdom is more precious than rubies, and that nothing one desires can compare with her. He understood that the glow of gold fades when compared with the light of understanding, that the crown of wisdom is brighter than the crown of jewels. His own life testified that prosperity without wisdom is fragile, but wisdom itself creates prosperity that extends beyond material abundance. The treasures of understanding reach deeper than success or influence. They touch the inner life, shaping character, cultivating peace, and aligning the soul with God's truth. A wealthy man without wisdom is poor in spirit, but a wise man without wealth is rich in ways the world cannot measure. The inheritance of wisdom is eternal, passed down through generations, carried in words, actions, and teachings that continue long after material wealth has vanished. For those who listened to Solomon, the lesson was clear. Seek wisdom first, and every other blessing finds its place. His reign demonstrated that when understanding guides the throne, the kingdom flourishes. The prosperity of Israel was not only in its borders or trade, but in the security, justice, and peace that wisdom established. This peace was the true wealth, a gift greater than all treasures carried by caravans or stored in vaults. Even today, the call of Solomon's life invites the soul to shift focus. Many strive endlessly for possessions, recognition, or success, yet the greater call is to seek understanding. The treasures of the soul, unlike the treasures of the world, cannot be stolen or destroyed. They remain with those who cherish them, offering light in darkness and stability in chaos. The message echoes like a royal decree across time. Do not measure wealth by gold or silver, but by the wisdom that dwells within. For in wisdom lies a treasure that surpasses all riches, a wealth that endures beyond kingdoms, and an inheritance that crowns the soul with eternal glory. The story of Solomon carries both radiant light and sobering shadow. For all the glory of his early years, for all the brilliance of his judgments and the beauty of his writings, the later part of his life reveals a truth often forgotten. Even great wisdom can falter when the heart becomes divided. The man who once asked for discernment above all things gradually allowed his soul to drift, and the royal crown of wisdom grew dim beneath the weight of compromise. Solomon's reign was marked by achievements beyond measure. He built the temple in Jerusalem, a dwelling place for the presence of God, and his kingdom enjoyed peace on every side. Yet in the midst of abundance, his heart was tested not by poverty or hardship, but by prosperity itself. He multiplied alliances with foreign nations, taking wives and concubines from lands whose gods were not the God of Israel. These alliances may have strengthened his political power, but they weakened the purity of his devotion. The scriptures tell us that Solomon's heart turned after other gods, and that his love for these women drew him into practices that dishonored the covenant he had been entrusted to guard. The one who had once asked for wisdom above riches began to treasure what was fleeting. The one who had once built a temple for the living God built high places for idols. The shadow that entered his soul did not come all at once, but gradually, as small compromises paved the way for greater departure. This truth remains as relevant as ever. Wisdom is not a possession to be held once and for all, but a continual alignment of the heart with divine truth. To be wise today does not guarantee wisdom tomorrow, for the soul must guard its crown daily against pride, distraction, and temptation. Solomon's story warns that the greater the gift, the greater the responsibility to nurture it faithfully. The faltering of Solomon's wisdom reveals the fragility of the human soul. Even a heart touched by divine understanding can grow clouded when divided loyalties take root. The danger was not that Solomon lacked knowledge, for his writings testify to his immense understanding, but that he ceased to live fully by the wisdom he once cherished. Knowledge without obedience becomes hollow, and wisdom without devotion loses its light. Yet even in this shadow, the story carries a lesson of grace. Solomon's failures are not recorded to dismiss the value of wisdom, but to remind every soul that vigilance is necessary. The greatest of gifts can be lost if neglected, and even the wisest of hearts can stumble when distracted by desires that lead away from God. The lesson is not despair, but humility. The crown of wisdom must be guarded as carefully as any throne, for it is vulnerable to erosion when the heart grows careless. For those who seek wisdom today, the example of Solomon's later years is a sober call to faithfulness. It is a reminder that true wisdom is not only in knowing, but in continuing to walk rightly with what is known. It is not only about receiving the gift, but about living it out with steadfast devotion. Wisdom is more than a crown placed once upon the head. It is a discipline of the soul, a continual choice to align with truth even when tempted by the allure of false treasures. Solomon's shadowed years speak to the struggle within every human heart. We are all capable of faltering when comfort and abundance lull us into complacency, yet his story also assures us that even in weakness, the lessons of wisdom remain. His writings, preserved across centuries, testify that though his own walk grew unsteady, the wisdom God gave him was not lost to the world. The crown may have slipped from his brow, but its radiance continues to guide those who heed its light. Among Solomon's greatest gifts to humanity is not only the wisdom he practiced in his reign, but the wisdom he preserved in words. The Book of Proverbs, the Song of Songs, and Ecclesiastes carry within them the voice of a man who received divine understanding and sought to clothe it in language. These writings reveal that wisdom often speaks not in long arguments or rigid instructions, but in parables, poetry, and proverbs, forms of speech that linger in the heart long after they are heard. A proverb is like a seed, small, simple, yet containing within it the power to grow into something vast. Consider the words, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge." Proverbs 1 verse 7. Short as it is, it unfolds into a lifetime of reflection. To fear God is not to tremble in dread, but to live with reverence, humility, and awareness of his presence. This single line can guide the soul through decisions, protect it from folly, and inspire it to live with integrity. Parables and proverbs carry divine secrets in a way plain speech cannot. They invite the listener to pause, to turn the words over in the mind, to let them sink deeper into the soul. They resist being consumed quickly, for their power lies in meditation. This is why Solomon's wisdom was not only for the courtroom or the throne, but for the heart of every person, no matter their station in life. His words belong not just to kings, but to children, workers, friends, and families who sought guidance in daily living. The Song of Songs shows yet another dimension of Solomon's wisdom, the beauty of love expressed through poetry. Here, wisdom is revealed not as mere instruction, but as celebration. The imagery of vineyards, gardens, and flowing rivers paints a picture of love that is both human and divine, showing that wisdom embraces not only judgment and justice, but also joy, beauty, and intimacy. It speaks to the truth that the soul's longing for love reflects something eternal, a divine mystery woven into the fabric of creation. Ecclesiastes offers yet another voice, reflective and sober, wrestling with the meaning of life. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 2, Solomon writes, capturing the futility of chasing after worldly pleasures and ambitions. Yet within this melancholy tone lies deep wisdom, a call to remember that life finds its meaning not in endless striving, but in reverence for God and in embracing the simple gifts of each day. These words remind the soul to anchor itself in what is eternal rather than in what fades. The style of Solomon's wisdom, expressed through proverbs and poetry, reveals a royal secret of the soul. Truth must be received not only by the mind, but also by the heart. Facts and arguments may inform, but proverbs and parables transform, for they speak in ways that engage the imagination and linger in memory. They are like keys that unlock doors within the spirit, revealing treasures hidden beyond plain sight. Every culture treasures proverbs, for they are compact vessels of wisdom, but Solomon's stand apart for their divine origin. They are not merely clever sayings born of human experience, they are revelations clothed in simplicity. They teach not only how to live, but how to align life with the eternal. They reveal that wisdom speaks best when it is whispered in stories, sung in songs, and planted as seeds in the soil of the heart. For the one who listens with care, the writings of Solomon remain as alive today as when they were first spoken. They are the language of divine secrets, drawing the soul into reflection and shaping life from within. To walk with his words is to walk through a royal garden where each phrase is a blossom of truth and each parable a doorway to deeper understanding. The fame of Solomon's wisdom did not remain confined within Israel's borders. Word of his insight traveled across deserts and seas, reaching rulers and nations far beyond. Among those who heard of his greatness was the Queen of Sheba, a woman of wealth, power, and influence. Her journey to Jerusalem became one of the most striking testimonies to the magnetic power of wisdom, a power that draws the attention not only of individuals, but of nations. The Queen of Sheba came with a caravan laden with spices, gold, and precious stones, determined to test Solomon with hard questions. Her intent was not only to honor him, but to see whether the stories of his wisdom were true. In this encounter, we witness the universal hunger for understanding. Even a queen, surrounded by riches and influence, longed to witness wisdom face to face. The treasures she carried were grand, but she sought a treasure greater still, the insight of a king whose words had become legendary. When she arrived, her doubts were answered. The scriptures tell us that she was overwhelmed, breathless at the splendor of Solomon's court, the order of his servants, the offerings in the temple, and above all, the clarity and depth of his answers. She confessed that what she had heard did not even equal the reality, for Solomon's wisdom exceeded the reports. In her astonishment, she praised not Solomon alone, but the God who had placed him upon the throne, declaring that such wisdom was a blessing for Israel itself. This story illustrates that true wisdom cannot be hidden. Like a jewel, it shines with a radiance that attracts others. Wealth may dazzle for a moment, but wisdom captivates the soul. Power may command obedience, but wisdom wins admiration. The Queen of Sheba's awe reveals that wisdom is a magnet drawing hearts across distances, uniting people of different lands in the recognition of truth. The encounter also shows that wisdom brings blessing not only to the one who possesses it, but to all who come near. Solomon's court, his servants, and his people were touched by the abundance that flowed from his discernment. The queen herself, though wealthy, left richer in understanding than when she arrived. This reflects a royal secret. Wisdom multiplies itself by being shared. It does not diminish when given, but increases its influence as it spreads. The story challenges every listener to consider what kind of light their own life emits. Does the soul radiate wisdom that draws others toward peace, justice, and truth? Or does it reflect only the pursuit of personal gain? Solomon's life shows that when wisdom governs the heart, it cannot be hidden. It shines outward, blessing others and leaving a legacy that reaches beyond borders. The Queen of Sheba's visit also affirms the universal longing for divine truth. Across cultures and nations, people yearn for clarity, justice, and meaning. Solomon's wisdom was not locked within Israel, but became a testimony to the world that God's truth speaks to every soul. Her admiration teaches that when wisdom is lived faithfully, it becomes a beacon not only for those nearby, but for distant seekers who are willing to journey far to encounter it. In the end, the Queen of Sheba returned to her land with gifts exchanged, but the greatest treasure she carried was intangible, the memory of encountering wisdom that surpassed human measure. Her story assures us that the wisdom of God, when alive within a person, has the power to attract, inspire, and transform not only individuals, but nations. This is the radiant crown of wisdom, shining as a light for the world to see. When the final years of Solomon's reign drew to a close, the glory of his kingdom began to fade, as all earthly thrones eventually do. The palaces he built, the wealth he gathered, the armies he commanded, all were subject to time, change, and decay. Yet the crown of wisdom that God placed upon him endured beyond his lifetime, outliving the grandeur of his reign and echoing through the centuries. This crown was not forged of gold or adorned with jewels. It was woven of words, insights, and truths that continue to shape hearts long after his earthly kingdom dissolved. The enduring power of Solomon's wisdom rests in its eternal nature. Empires rise and fall, monuments crumble and treasures vanish, but the words of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Songs still breathe life into those who read them. They are a testimony that wisdom is greater than stone, more lasting than silver, and more powerful than armies. His writings remain a living inheritance, guiding seekers across generations, reminding every soul that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and that the pursuit of understanding is the richest path a person can walk. In Solomon's own reflections, especially in Ecclesiastes, we hear the voice of a man who had tasted every earthly pleasure and achieved every human ambition, only to conclude that all is vanity without reverence for God. This conclusion may appear sorrowful, but in truth, it carries the greatest gift of wisdom, the recognition that meaning is not found in the fleeting, but in the eternal. His words guide the soul to anchor itself not in possessions, power, or passing joys, but in the divine presence that gives life its true purpose. The eternal crown of wisdom is not bound to one man, one nation, or one time. It is offered to every heart that seeks it, a gift from God that transcends culture and history. The story of Solomon assures us that while kings may come and go, while their legacies may fade in the dust of history, the wisdom of God remains, shining like a light that no darkness can extinguish. This crown belongs not to the head, but to the spirit. It cannot be stolen by enemies, it cannot be tarnished by time, and it cannot be diminished by circumstance. When wisdom governs the life of a person, that life carries an eternal quality, influencing others long after the days on earth have passed. The words of Solomon continue to teach us that wisdom is not only for the glory of a kingdom, but for the shaping of the human soul into something eternal. The royal secret revealed in the closing of Solomon's story is that the soul itself becomes a kingdom when wisdom reigns within it. Thrones of gold may topple, but the throne within the heart, when governed by discernment, justice, compassion, and reverence for God, remains secure. This is the eternal crown, the inheritance that outlasts kings and kingdoms alike. Even now, as we reflect on his journey, we are reminded that the pursuit of wisdom is not the pursuit of knowledge alone, but of alignment with divine truth. It is the choice to walk humbly, to discern rightly, to love deeply, and to seek what endures beyond the passage of time. In this, the soul is crowned with something no ruler can grant and no age can erase. The story of Solomon, with all its brilliance and shadows, triumphs and failures, leads us to this enduring truth. Wisdom is the crown that outlives kings. To seek it is to seek eternity, to wear a diadem that will shine long after earthly treasures have turned to dust. This is the royal secret of the soul. The crown of wisdom is the crown of life itself. If the journey through the wisdom of Solomon has inspired you, let it not end here. Carry these truths into your own life, reflect on them deeply, and let them guide your path. And if this message has touched your heart, I invite you to subscribe to the channel so you can continue receiving more reflections like this one. Give the video a like if it spoke to you, share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know how the story of Solomon resonates with your own life. Finally, share this video with your family and friends so that together we may spread the light of wisdom, encouraging others to seek the eternal crown that outlives kings.